What's going on?
Welcome back to the Frogcast, where we deal with riveting questions and topics. We're getting froggy, so you don't have to. I'm your first host, Bella.
I'm your second host, Bryn with one N.
And I'm your tertiary host, Bryn with two N's. And today's topic is church and state. And our thesis is American politics, even though meant to be separate from religion, are meshed to a point where they are interfering with basic human rights.
And we have 4 topic points under that thesis. The first one is, was the country founded on religion? The second one is, can people in power be religious and unbiased? Does the integration of church and state affect civil rights? And does it affect human rights? Now I say we should probably start with the first one. Was the country founded on religion?
Well,
We ready to get a little froggy?
I think I'm ready to get
I think
froggy.
we're ready to croak.
All right.
I'm like totally ready to go.
Totally
ready. Everything that I think of when I think of, old America and when it was originally being founded is that so much of it was based upon Christianity and the integration of religion with just like the founding fathers and how they put that into their systems. But I could be wrong.
Because when they first decided that they wanted to branch off from the British, and when they first came, they wanted to escape a tyrannical church that was not letting them practice their own religions. So, since they're deeply based in their religions because they actively fought for what they believe in, it's been definitely incorporated, but I don't think it's taken place as, the formation of our
Based on my
country.
public United States education, my understanding is that, among other reasons, that people left Britain because they didn't want to be ruled under the Church of England, because that was like the one religion there. They were like, we're not really feeling any other religions. So there were like the Puritans who were like, it's not strict enough. Or and the Pilgrims who were like, we want to do our other Christianity over here. And they left for the freedom to practice both those religions.
And that's reflected in the First Amendment as found on constitution.findlaw.com, which is the freedom to practice whatever religion one chooses without interference of the government is one of the founding principles of the United States. So it might come as a surprise that this right was not included in the original Constitution. But what that's saying into is that we as a country decided that we were going to practice our own religions, although not explicitly stated. It was something that everyone knew because they all escaped this tyrannical rule, and then they all decided we need to state this, make it law.
It wasn't founded on their new religion, but the reason that they could practice it.
Exactly.
And
the ability to.
There's a part in the First Amendment that I think really shows specifically what you're saying, Bella, and it says, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press, or the right of the people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances.
Yeah.
So just going more off of, you are allowed to, practice whatever religion you want, but, people still have religion, and it is affecting things, but not, I feel like, as much as it is in our day-to-day lives now, as it's been so skewed and, rooted within everything we do at this point.
Exactly, and getting an understanding of whether our country was founded on religion really applies to our thesis, because with that, if religion was already incorporated into our government, that doesn't mean it meshed over time. It's saying that this was already a thing that was enforced, but in reality, our founding fathers decided people have their freedoms, people need these rights to practice, But it's been seen over time that it has been meshing because we are under completely different ideals as of right now in our current society, that we have government and we have state, and they're kissing frogs.
They are kissing
Yeah.
frogs.
When the topic of church and state, and more specifically the separation, comes up, the First Amendment is always quoted because that's the one that references religion, freedom of press, freedom of religion, freedom of speech. Within the First Amendment, there are two clauses that I think far too combined. That I'm gonna paraphrase from constitution.findlaw.com. But basically, there's the Establishment Clause, which is we can't, as a state, as a government, establish any one religion that is this is the main one and this is the majority and this is kind of going to influence our policies. And the second clause is the Free Exercise Clause, which is the freedom to exercise the freedom to practice any religion.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think the establishment one kind of gets a little forgotten there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Sorry, I got a little frog in my throat there.
Yeah.
So, are you ready to
Shall we
hop on over
hop on
to
our
our
other
next
lily pad?
topic?
Hopping deeper in the bog.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Our second topic is, can people in power be religious and be truly unbiased? And personally, I think no, but not specifically because they're religious. I just feel like anybody at all can't be truly unbiased when
Yeah.
they have
Yeah.
core beliefs.
I agree with that also. I feel like there's no such thing as an unbiased view or an unbiased person, because we all grow up thinking specific things, we're all taught specific things, and we all center our lives around those things that we're taught when we're young. So it's kind of hard to pull yourself out of that.
Yeah.
But
It
Yeah.
shouldn't be used. But even though nobody can have a completely unbiased opinion, they shouldn't be biased when making decisions, and
Yeah.
should have the good of the people, and shouldn't be making these judicial decisions based off of the religion that they believe. It should be kind of more like personal motive rather than something that you use to make decisions within the law.
Yeah.
I definitely think people in power can be religious. They just need to realize that there's a line they need to draw between their own beliefs and religion and what's good for the rest of the country, because they're speaking for everyone. They're speaking for people who don't have voices and for people who can't really get this platform to speak for themselves. They need to be the model. They need to show that they understand that everyone is different. But when you get these people in power that are blinded by their religion, it's actively defying that. It's actively saying, well, my religion goes, yours doesn't. So yeah, people in power can be religious. They just can't mesh it to a point where it's drawing other people's rights out of it.
Yeah. I mean, it would be ridiculous to require that no one be religious on the Senate or in the government positions, because there's too many religions to ban, And
But
it's not a bad thing to be religious. It's not inherently bad, but there's also different religions. So it's like, I'm gonna make laws based on my religion. Well, I'm Jewish and I can't eat pork. So why would you say that the law is that you can only eat pork?
Now, would you say that is something that would silence religious voices, not being able to use religion as a way to create certain laws and changes within society?
No, because religious voices should be heard and taken into account, but the fact that it's a religious voice, it shouldn't be making the law.
Yeah.
You can be a religious person using your voice to make the law, but you can't be using your religious voice to make the law.
Exactly.
You get what I'm saying? I forgot what I was going to say, so never mind.
So I'm going to hop onto another quote, and this one's from All Sides. It's the founder, they argued that it was never intended by the founders to exclude or silence these religious voices. these same people also emphasize that this doctrine was intended to likewise protect religions from the intrusion of state. So our founding fathers, as a collective, the collective founders, decided that we cannot exclude or silence these religious voices because they are our people.
Yeah.
They are our morals, and we live by those, and everyone has a different set of morals. We can't just silence one voice.
Yeah.
And we can't intrude upon their religion with state.
I'm gonna... are you done? Are you good?
Uh,
You can keep going.
Okay.
gonna
We can't
back you up.
intrude upon these with state because some people use their platform within power to silence other religious voices, as we've been talking about. For example, there's churches going against other churches, like the Catholic Church going against the Satanic Temple, saying women can't get abortions. Meanwhile, the Satanic Temple allows women to do whatever they want with their body because it's their body. And they're actively denying people these rights that they have due to their religion, and they're not letting them speak out saying, this is what we want, this is what we need because of our religion.
Yeah.
You can say you want that, but it can't affect the policy because it's religious.
Yeah.
You can say, I don't want abortions because I don't like them because I'm Christian. Cool, but
But
let's
it
say
can't
your
be-
lawmaker
yeah.
says, I don't like it because I'm Christian, but you're seeing in the community a majority of people are pro-choice.
Yeah.
You're going to have to make the law based off of that and not whatever you're feeling because of the religion. But based off of what you see in society.
Yeah, and they try and base their religious views with, air quotes, facts that they pull out of the air, literally,
Yep.
saying, oh, we can't kill 6 weeks. 6 weeks and you can't get an
Yeah.
abortion.
Yeah.
Most women find out they're pregnant after 6 weeks.
Yeah.
They can't do anything about
It's
that.
just using religion to an unfair
Yeah.
advantage.
yeah advantage for something that
Because religious leaders they study their religious works, their Torahs, their Qurans, their Bible, but they're not studying biology or
Exactly.
how socioeconomical thingies. They're not, and it's not their job to. But that's why they can't be using religion to make those decisions.
They croak for the people that it will
they croak
cost.
for the people.
Exactly.
There's another quote from All Sides that says, at that point, the separation of church and state increasingly became the cry of liberals and progressives, including liberal Christians and Jews and secular voices, emphasizing the need for protecting the workings of the state and general public against the intrusion of religious groups and institutions seen as trying to force their religious views on the nation through the force of law. This basically just shows the outcry of certain groups that feel like they are being not necessarily targeted, but also perhaps they are, just because of other... They feel like religion is becoming a part of their lives in ways that they don't want it to, and religions that, aren't even their own, and people feel like they are needing to do things so that they won't get in trouble, but it could be things that, go against their personal beliefs, whether political, religious, spiritual, any of that.
Croak.
Yeah. And how it should, according to the original founding fathers' kind of ways that they wanted to preserve it, we can see that it's strayed very far from that. And they are meant to be kept separate, but at this point are nearly completely rooted within each other.
I want to bring up a funky little, survey.
Funky little survey.
Statistic I found
A froggy little survey.
by Pew Research Center.
Froggy little survey.
And if, any of these don't add up to 100, it's the percentage of people that didn't answer the survey. So this first question on the survey is, what percentage of U.S. adults think that churches should, 1, keep out of political matters, or 2, should express their views on them. And the first one is 63% think that that churches and other religious houses should stay out of political matters. We got majority. The second sort of question was, during political elections, should churches and other houses of worship come out in favor of one candidate over another? 76% said no, they should not do this. And number 3 is, churches and religious organizations have 1, too much influence in politics, 2, not enough influence in politics, and 3, about the right amount. And 37% for too much, 28 for not enough, and 34 for just right, which is like I'd say pretty much an even split. Those are almost like thirds.
I think that it's super interesting that when you look at the first 2 questions, the majority say no, and that you know it should be kept out of political matters. But then when you look at the third one, there's basically an even split between too much, not enough, and just about the right amount, which I feel like is really interesting when you see the other ones where the majority are like saying that religion and, you know, politics should be kept separate, but then you look at the 28% that say that there's not enough influence and 34% that say that there's just the right amount of influence. That makes the 37% of too much influence the minority in that graph. And so it's just really interesting looking at the different ones and where the variation is.
Mm-hmm. I think that this reflects as people who take the survey and people around America not having enough knowledge to base their opinions off of on a certain topic, because they may be influenced that, oh, everything is fine, ignorance is bliss, what I don't know won't hurt me, but in actuality it is hurting them because it's taking away their rights. But they're not being educated enough to a point where they can't see these really harsh issues that are restricting their life. So that's seen with the 37 being in the minority, because sure, people said keep religion out of political matters, and churches during political elections, churches should not come out in favor of a candidate, but they're basing that information off of what they understand, off of what they know, and then they're going into the third question and just like saying, I don't know. Because they're not educated enough on the topic.
They don't have enough knowledge on what's actually happening to be able to...
People don't know how much church and state are already intertwined.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Are we ready to hop on to another topic?
Ooh, okay.
Absolutely. So, third talking point we got here is all of this affecting civil rights? Now, when we talk about rights in America, we have to realize that civil rights and human rights are 2 different things. And I have a quote from that, from the Law Howard Library, that says, "What is the difference between a civil right and a human right? Simply put, human rights are rights one acquires by being alive. Civil rights are rights that one obtains by being a legal member of a certain political state." So some examples of human rights include the right to life, the right to education, protection from torture, freedom of expression, and the right to a free trial. A few civil rights within the United States include the protection from discrimination, the right to free speech, the right to due process, the right to equal protection, and the right against self-incrimination. So just now looking at the civil rights, where do we think that the integration of church and state is affecting civil rights? Or do we think that they are affecting our civil rights?
Well, when I think of civil and human rights, an example I thought of was gay marriage, because marriage is made up. It was made up by society, having a legal thing, keep 2 people together. That's civil. It's made up. It's a civil right, but it turns into a human right when it's like gay people wouldn't have the same right as someone else, you know? Mm-hmm. Not being treated the same as someone else turns into a human right there.
Mm-hmm. I feel like that one specifically goes against the civil right of protection from discrimination.
Yeah.
I feel like that is the main one that we see religion and church affecting people within our society, is the protection from discrimination, and also the right to free speech. A lot of people are silenced on their points when they have been living in a life that they are not comfortable with and maybe aren't even safe in because of all of these things, and because church and state are so prominent and intertwined with each other that it can make it a horrifically scary place for these people to the point where they feel like they can't speak out.
Yeah. I mean, this isn't to say that, religious people are bad.
Oh, not at all, no.
Your religion is perfectly valid. And, not every Christian thinks that gay people can't be married. There's so many differences just within that one religion of Christianity. But basically, it's like you can base a lot of your core values off the Bible, but you can't make everyone else do that.
Yeah.
Exactly. And when questioning religion here, I'm going to quote all sides. The civil rights struggles of blacks, women, and gays often turned on the question of the role of religious beliefs in the secular state. So, take, for instance, protection from discrimination, which we've all been talking about. We're living in a society today. We live in a society that sorry, I got a frog in my throat for a second. We live in a society to where we see discrimination happen every day. At our own Clackamas High School even. Yeah. You can't walk down the hall without seeing some sort of display that's not somewhat discriminatory against a person's race, a person's religion, a person's gender, sexuality. 2 years ago, we had that quote-unquote senior prank where...
Was that 2 years ago, or was it one?
It was 2 years ago.
Oh.
It was sophomore year, I think.
That was sophomore year?
It was the end of sophomore year?
I thought it was the end of junior year.
I thought it was the end of junior
year. It might be. But
anyway,
it didn't happen that long ago.
No.
Is the point.
Yeah, where some certain students decided to throw beans along the front of the school, put up Trump stickers and white supremacy signs. That's an act of discrimination against the entire Latina, Hispanic community.
White supremacy is against any other race.
Yeah, anyone who's not white, anyone who's not Christian in that sense, because there was
gay stuff too.
Yeah, there was anyone who's not straight, heterosexual. So we see this even in our own schools, where we should be protected against this to a certain extent.
Yeah,
we should be exposed to it, but not to this
magnitude.
Yeah,
where it's
they were
happening
also
every day.
going after the highest position in the school.
Yeah, which just so happened to be a Hispanic man.
Yeah.
Something within that student population said, "We don't like this principal. Let's draw him out," and they made the entire school unsafe.
Instead of going to the faculty and having a private conversation with maybe why the principal wasn't being the principal that everybody wanted, but instead acting on hate and a blatant act of discrimination.
They could have not liked him for whatever reason, because he was Latinx or because he was already I don't like how he handled the sports teams this year. But either way, they let his race fuel it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was very racially motivated.
And it was hard to see personally coming from a Latino standpoint, because I saw this principal as, Clackamas High School is finally getting some diversity.
Exactly, yeah.
Someone that looks like me, someone that has the same ideals as me, someone who just knows the same culture. And seeing him actively being drawn out, that was really hard for me. I remember I was with my friend, and we found out the day of, and we were just crying. And he came into a Google Meet with us, and he was trying to comfort the Latinx Student Union. But he also got pressured by the parents of these kids, and they threatened to sue him if they did anything to their children that took place in this act. And he quit before they could actively kind of mess with his family and mess with his personal life. And they got what they wanted, but...
Yeah, which is just, so messed up.
Yeah.
Not good means.
No.
Yeah.
It's insane how discriminatory people can be. And we can see that with church and state because a lot of people base these hateful viewpoints off of their religion because they see their religion tells them, oh, this is a sin, this such and such is a sin, this can't go. And then they see other cultures practicing it. And they're like, oh, you're sinning. Oh, this isn't good. You're not going to go to heaven. You're not going to have all these things. Why should you live on earth with me if you're just going to taint it for everyone?
And it's cherry-picked things that are sins, too.
Exactly.
You know, religious people have their ears pierced. I'm pretty sure that was a sin. And tattoos.
Yeah. Mixed fiber clothing. That's a sin.
At least within the Bible realm.
The Bible realm?
Yeah.
Not the froggy realm.
Not the froggy realm. There's just so many things that we can see all the time that show, you know, the cherry picking of religion, and specifically just like when it's in regards to other religions. And so we can see that Christianity is so rooted within our government that it almost scares people into not being able to practice their religions. And we see this cherry picking happening in everyday lives, but when, you know, other religions you know, cherry pick or say that a different group can't do a certain thing, then it's just a whole outbreak of chaos. And because to say that you go against Christianity is almost to say the same as you're going against the American government, just because they're so intertwined.
Yeah.
All right, are we ready to
Last froggy point.
I mean,
back of the bog.
they're
deep
pretty-
dive into the bog?
I mean, we're pretty
Civil
civil rights and human rights. Oh my god.
Human rights and civil rights are very
They're very
they're very.
intertwined.
much,
Much like church and state.
Oh!
No, but they're almost so intertwined to where it's a fault in our community that we're not teaching that there is a difference.
I believe that there is.
Yeah.
Because I mean, like how
human rights have somewhat become civil because, you know, laws let you do stuff.
Yeah.
laws do let you do things. So I guess the topic just is this affecting human rights? And I believe that we all think yes, because we can see how it's affecting our civil rights. So of course, when our civil rights are affected, human rights are also affected. Such as one that I really feel like I see a lot is the disrespect of the human right of being able to have the freedom of expression, where many other religious groups and, you know, people of different genders and sexualities and, you know, races and everything aren't allowed to express themselves in a place where, I mean, America is supposed to be, you know, land of the free, home of the brave. We're supposed to be able to say what we need to and speak out against these problems that we feel like are really important to us, but many of us are being completely silenced by the government and the church and how they affect everything.
Going on the lines of us being silenced by the government and the church, in the Declaration of Independence and its views, it's stating that God is to be acknowledged as, this isn't the exact declaration, but it's more of a summary and an explanation. God is to be acknowledged as the creator of humankind and a source of unalienable rights, but government is properly understood as a human, not divine institution whose authority and power is derived from, not divine institution, whose authority and power is derived from the citizens themselves, not from God. So it's essentially saying, yeah, you believe in God. Sure. God, good for you. But government and state is human. It's run by people.
Yeah.
It's, to quote Abraham Lincoln, government of the people, by the people, for the people.
Exactly.
It's something that we shouldn't be actively taking away humans' rights with, because it's supposed to be there to protect our human rights. And if you mesh church into this, no matter what, you're going to take away someone's active human right.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
It's just supposed to be like more of looking to God as, you know, the guidance and realizing that he is on a different level than all of humans.
Exactly.
But when you start using things from the Bible and religious standpoints to create certain ideals within a community, that's when the government starts getting corrupt, because church and state are supposed to be kept separate, like, you know, the Declaration of Independence says, but at this point it's not, and that's becoming a huge problem, and a huge problem that not a lot of people see.
And it was made for all the humans, not all the Christian
All the
humans.
Christians, yeah.
Exactly.
It within human rights, I'm gonna quote something. Both? There's 3.
3 of us.
That was
Sorry.
Mr. Taylor.
That was you.
That was
Can
you.
we have an A? Okay. With
We're getting a little froggy here. We gotta jump back on topic.
We gotta digress back in that pond.
when what was I saying? Oh, within human rights, there's the right to education, and I'm gonna sort of quote something that kind of proves that church and state have been from the get-go pretty intertwined from the past. So there was a Supreme Court case that was basically dealing with the right to education and like how religion meshed into that. And so I'm going to read this. This is uscourts.gov. A New York state law required public schools to open each day with the Pledge of Allegiance and a non-denominational prayer in which students recognized their dependence upon God. The law allowed students to absent themselves from this activity if they found it objectionable. A parent sued on behalf of his child, arguing that the law violated the Establishment Clause of the First Amendment. The Establishment Clause is the one where it's like the state doesn't establish one religion as the whole thing. As made applicable to the states through the Due Process Clause of the 14th Amendment, which is like the right to sue and stuff. So the issue is whether school-sponsored non-denominational prayer in public schools violates the Establishment Clause of the First Amendment. And the ruling was yes, which makes sense. Like, it's good that, you know, kids could sit out of the prayer if they wanted to. But having a prayer, that's a personal life thing. Within, like, it wasn't a private, like, Catholic school. It was just a public school system in New York.
And the fact that that's already something that...
It was already
the fact
there.
That that's something that they had to fight against for kids to be able to opt out.
That was in 1962.
And kids also, like, this isn't like a workspace.
Yeah.
Like, these are children that are just trying to get an education.
Yeah.
And, you know, as a whole are being, you know, integrated within this Christian.
Their views can easily be swayed by people who they think are respectable, and that just so happens to be principals, faculty members, and teachers. And if they're seeing this forced religion, even though they don't know it's being forced upon them, they actively start thinking, oh, that's the norm, that's what I should follow, it's given to me by this.
Yeah, and it's, you know, you can argue it's not even forced because they don't have to do it.
Exactly.
But, you know, it's, you know, everyone else is doing it. It's just like kind
It's
of
a
the
social
thing
pressure.
that you do.
Yeah.
It's just like, I don't know,
And-
I just
and
do it because I do it.
At a certain point, like Bryn was saying, you're going to start believing that, whether you truly, whether that's something that you would have come to on your own to believe.
Because they're kids.
If you're exposed to it every single day and you're being fed the information that this is right, this is the good way, this is what you should be doing, then at some point you're going to start believing it, whether, you know, it was your choice or not.
Yeah.
I mean, whether or not to, like, say the Pledge of Allegiance is a whole nother thing. But even that is more general than a prayer.
Yeah.
Because that's for the whole United States crunchy. That's not
crunchy.
just for...
The whole crunchy.
That's not
like
just
those
for
flies.
this
Just
one
like those flies.
religion, you know.
Well, my froggy friends, it looks
froggy
like we've
friends.
made it. Should we start with our closing statements and ties?
Well, I would
I
think.
believe so.
All right. Well, since I was the last to sign on, I guess I'll be the first to sign off. So, I'm gonna get a little froggy. I'm gonna croak here.
We're getting
So-
a little riveting.
To reiterate the thesis, American politics, even though meant to be separate from religion, are meshed to a point where they are interfering with basic human rights. we've stated enough facts and statistics and just personal knowledge. I feel like that we can back up our thesis 100%. Because we've provided knowledge that instantly shows that this is true, no matter what. Our founding fathers had original ideals that government should be separate from, state should be separate from religion, because we want everyone to express their own beliefs. We are a free nation, free to do whatever you want as long as it's not infringing upon other people's human rights or morals. And yeah, that's what they originally wanted, and that's what they stated in the First Amendment, the Declaration of Independence, that we all have these freedoms. But as we've gone further down the line into our country, we've been seeing I forgot the word. Sorry. My little froggy brain isn't...
Little froggy brain.
My little froggy brain's being a little foggy.
Eating too many flies.
Eating too many flies. We're seeing that this separation is growing smaller. And at this point in time, we've become so neutralized to the idea that church and state
We're just used to it.
We're used to it because it's something that, as a nation right now, is so a part of the norm that some people can't see it. We're so used to it, so you have to actively look for it.
Yeah.
Even though it's right in front of our faces.
I completely agree with that and our thesis, because especially going back to that one study that had the, whether people think that church is too integrated within politics and politics too integrated within church, we can see that there was a lot of variety within, especially the last question, and how we can see that a lot of people don't even probably understand the fact that church and state at this point are in fact muddled together and are basically a combination. And we see it within our human rights and our civil rights being disrespected and used against us for the purpose of, preaching a different religion. And obviously not in every single instance, and we're not, ripping on every single Christian person ever.
Yeah.
But it's so rooted in our society at this point that we can clearly see that it's basically not, there's like no separation between the two anymore.
And it's infringing upon people's rights and human rights.
Human rights.
Yeah. Basically, going back to our thesis, somewhat, would a church and state that are not separate affect human rights? Yes. And our churches, do I think that we have separation? I do not. I don't think we do. Just like that court case proved, like, prayers were like the morning thing you do before you start the school day. And that was, that was just the thing that we do. But it proves that, it's sort of been intertwined from the start of our society, even though the start of our society had the intention of having freedom of religion and a separation. The Establishment Clause that is often forgotten is that we can't establish a religion, even if, some form of Christianity is the majority practiced thing. It's not the whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, froggies and toads, are we ready to sign off?
I'm ready to hop off.
So.
Right.
I'm ready to hop off, yeah.
All right.
Get on that other
Tertiary
road.
frog is out.
Secondary croaker, tapping out.
I'm about to tap out. But I'd like to thank you so much for listening, and thank you so much again for giving us 100%. I really appreciate that one, Mr. Taylor. Oh, yeah, I'm hopping off.